So, are you planning to vote in the upcoming election?
Yeah, I'm voting for Harper.
Why?
The economy is fragile and I think Harper will provide the steadiest hand.
Really, even though he has run up record deficits?
Well, that was a stimulus to stop the financial crisis.
But the parliamentary budget officer reported that the government had a deficit before the stimulus spending.
Even so, I think Harper is a competent fiscal manager.
I think there's plenty of evidence to the contrary, and even if it's so, he has made it pretty hard to judge.
What do you mean?
Well, for one, he pushed through a GST cut when virtually every economist in the country thought almost any other form of tax relief would be better for the economy.
But reducing consumption taxes is good for increasing consumer demand.
True, but the Canadian dollar has risen quite sharply against a trade-weighted basket of currencies, which drives down prices and helps consumers already. A 2% cut in the GST does almost nothing against this, except open up a structural deficit.
Well, you have to admit that at least now they have a plan to close the deficit.
Is that true? They claim they have a plan, but they've not been very forthcoming with details. The government has repeatedly provided lowball estimates of their spending programs. The last 5 years they've been trying to spend their way to a majority government. What makes you think they're going to discover fiscal rectitude all of a sudden?
Do you think the other parties will be any better?
Well, the Liberals did bring the deficit under control in the 1990s. I don't think any conservative government has brought a budget into surplus in the last 100 years.
I don't know about that.
Plus, they've already committed to billions of dollars in new spending programs. In the case of prisons, they're going to spend billions of dollars on a tough-on-crime policy that has already failed everywhere it's been tried.
You don't believe in reducing crime?
Sure I do. But if we're going to spend billions of dollars, let's actually do something that has a chance of working.
What, like the gun registry? Like that was money well spent?
You're right, that was a lot more costly than it should have been.
And Harper is going to eliminate it.
But eliminating it now won't get back the money that was already spent. Right now it doesn't cost much to operate, and Canadian police chiefs think it is a useful tool in fighting crime.
But Harper is clearly a better leader than Ignacy Verleden.
Really? What makes a good leader?
Someone who is strong and decisive.
I suppose, as long as that doesn't run into obstinate and cutted. I happen to think a good leader is also someone who listens and who is willing to explain their policies. Why doesn't Harper take unscripted questions?
He takes questions from the media.
Yeah, limited to 5 a day. Why doesn't he provide the details of his spending programs to Parliament? Why doesn't he present them to the parliamentary budget officer?
I don't know.
I don't either. But because he doesn't share the details of what he's doing, I don't think we can really say whether he's competent or not. He shares so little information, it would be pretty hard to know if he's incompetent.
But the economy is doing well.
I wouldn't say it is doing incredibly well. And most of that seems to be due to rising commodity prices as the rest of the world economy gets back on track. Do you think that is due to Harper?
Well, he cannot change commodity prices, but he did provide the stimulus.
That's true, but only after denying for months that there would be a recession, and finally being forced by the opposition. And the stimulus itself seemed like it was aimed more at pork barreling and Tory ridings than making an investment in our country's economic future. Not only has he been secretive with Parliament, he's clamped down on access to information requests. If we cannot get information through Parliament and the media cannot get access to information requests, how are we supposed to have democracy? That's the kind of democracy they have in Myanmar.
That's an exaggeration.
It is, but not by nearly as much as it should be.
Well, at least Harper is cutting down on intrusive government by doing away with the mandatory long-form census.
Do you really think that is going to do away with intrusive government?
Why won't it?
The other Western countries that got rid of their censuses have introduced massive information gathering on their citizens. At least the census was anonymous. In other countries they use all kinds of records to collect the same information, but it is far more intrusive.
But the government can collect the same data without making it mandatory.
Virtually no one thinks that's true. And the problem is that all levels of government use that information to make sure that our tax dollars are spent wisely. Without reliable census information, we are likely going to pay more in taxes, not only federally, but also provincially and municipally, because governments won't have the information they need to spend the money wisely. It's a huge gamble, and there's a good chance we're all going to have to pay for it.
Well, so who are you voting for then?
I'm planning to vote for a Liberal candidate.
Why?
I think that the Liberals would form a government that represents the best compromise of what most Canadians want.
What do you think that is?
Decent health care and education. A moderate tax burden. A stronger economy. A balanced budget. An understanding that people want to live happy lives, but to do so they need jobs, and businesses need to employ them.
But Ignatieff lived for so long outside of the country.
That's true, but he's been back here and in Parliament for years. Is there something wrong with having a distinguished career something before you enter politics?
No, but isn't he out of touch with ordinary Canadians?
Well, he actually takes the time to speak to them and answer their questions, whereas Harper doesn't. And hasn't Harper spent his entire adult life in politics, either in the back room, as a lobbyist, or an MP? I hardly think he's spent a lot of time with ordinary Canadians.
So you think I should vote Liberal instead of for Harper?
No, vote for him if you want, it's your choice. But to me, the fact that he has gone to unprecedented lengths to keep what his government is doing from the public eye is troubling and bad for democracy. Whatever you decide, though, please vote.